I've come to the conclusion I look like a very bad version of Jimmy Carr, sat here like this.
But that also comes with its challenges. You sometimes perhaps cut corners, you rush things through, whereas, in traditional banking, I think there's more of a decision-making process that covers every angle before a decision's made. So I think there's that trade-off between speed and efficiency and actually getting things right, and it's a hard balance to strike. I don't know what your thoughts are, Martin, on actually getting things done in terms of that end-to-end decision-making process.
Yeah, it is challenging, and I think I need to differentiate here between the different kind of banks as well, because you've got really big tier one banks that have got huge structures in them in first, second, and third line that really do that, and then you've got smaller banks and specialist banks like I work for, where it's a much smaller environment. So you can grab some of the fintech bits, you can move things quicker, you can get things done, but it doesn't have the support that you get in a big bank. And there's a real comfort blanket to that.
In the fintech space, I think you need to be prepared to get your hands dirty with everything. You need to be sort of part project manager, part commercial leader, part compliance, part risk, all of these things that you need to really take ownership of and see things through to the end.
For me, it's about building really good relationships with each MD in each area, and being able to reach out to them and have that open conversation, and you can get reassurance and you can build it back out from there.
Why are more and more customers choosing to move to fintech banks?
For me personally, I think because it matches the way we're starting to live and how we're starting to change, and that kind of always on society. The fact that on my mobile phone now I can basically have my life, and that would include my money, and it's there and I can do it and it's immediate. And I think that's the kind of society we're going into, and they have very, very cleverly jumped on the back of that and built the tech to enable it. But more than anything, it appears to be simple.
We touched before on, outside of the podcast, but on the account opening point, the fact that now with these providers you can open an account in often 10 minutes, and start using it straight away, and silly things they're doing, like the real emphasis on the customer journey. Like, you can go out to a restaurant with friends, not so much now, but prior to coronavirus, and you can click a button and split the bill between you all.
It gets debited from your account, and it gets debited at the right rate, so you're not even feeling inside that people are taking advantage of you. And unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember going on holiday, first kind of holidays on my own, 17, 18, 19, and taking traveller's checks, having to cash them and get your money at whatever rate. Compared to now, certainly people of 17, 18 now, talking to them now, they just laugh at me. In fact, they wouldn't even understand. They wouldn't even understand what I was talking about. But then we had 3 channels of TV, so let's not go there. But yeah. That's got to be the way forward to keep their market share. But I think, a bit like in the way the jobs world has changed, the jobs market's changed, and people don't have careers for life now. People don't have bank accounts for life.
Absolutely.
They don't have relationships for life, do they? Everything is more transient, so you need to be able to be part of that. They're still not proper players because they're not making a profit. Because that's the culture in banks, and if you make a profit, you're a success. If you're not making a profit, you're not. Rather than seeing the big picture and how this could possibly be going. So it'd be interesting to ask that in 5 years.
I think I will. I'll have you back on the podcast.
People need to be more forward thinking, because I think, which comes back to where we start, the Monzo Revolut and everything else, where are they going? Give it another 5 years. If they can keep the funding running on them, it will change completely. Look how cryptocurrency is so integrated now compared to what it was just 5 years ago.
I think keeping on top of all the innovations and all the push and adaptations that businesses are trying to employ now in order to keep up with an unprecedented set of circumstances, that being COVID, for us, the travel sector being wiped out overnight, pivoting off that and keeping up with the pace of the business in an already fast-paced fintech is challenging.
You're not just checking in to say, how are you? But there's an underlining message between that, how are you? It's, how are you? What are you doing? and that to me is an element. And I think that goes back to the flexibility in work, which I truly believe people should consider more. Giving them the flexibility will open up a lot more channels in terms of the people. Giving them the trust in terms of managing their own hours is fundamental. You need to be agile. again, I mean, that's a great word to use, but in principle, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche word. Yeah, what does it really mean? But yeah, I think one of the key things that I look for in my teams personally is ownership. The willingness and having a bit of a demonstrable history in taking on a project and seeing it through to completion. I think agility is key, but when you actually look at it, the practicality of it, I think it's adapting to the fast-paced and often changing priorities of the business. I think that's what a lot of people, a lot of recruiters and talent acquisition specialists fail to get through.
It's really interesting hearing that, because in banking, from what I see and what I've heard, and Jermaine, you might have backed this up a little bit, but sure, there's always a feeling of, have they served their time doing this? Do they know X? So do they know this procedure and policy? Have they served their time in first line? Have they served their time in second line? An expert in their area, but just generally a kind of a happy, relaxed, positive person. But banking culture, and it might be controversial here, tends to beat that out of a lot of people in their display at work.
I'm connected with Martin, primarily Jermaine, because you put us in touch and I wanted somebody to have a conversation with about some of the challenges I was facing. So, I make no bones about it, Martin, you've been a great mentor to me and continue to be, and only continue to benefit from that. So I couldn't recommend mentoring highly enough. You need somebody to constantly challenge your way of thinking. So if you constantly spout your opinions into an echo chamber, you're always going to be right.